This is the tragic case of Miranda Corsette, a 16-year-old girl from St. Petersburg, Florida. Lured off a dating app, she vanished, only to be found days later, dismembered and discarded in a dumpster. Behind the horror lies a deeper question. How do we protect vulnerable teens when society sees them as problems, not people? Miranda Corsette was just 16 years old, but already carrying more than most adults ever will. She was an orphan, raised by her grandmother in St. Petersburg, Florida. She was also a mother. Her infant daughter, just 11 months old, was being cared for by her aunt while Miranda tried to find her footing. Every report and family statement paints the same picture. Miranda had been through a lot, but she was still fighting for a future. She had struggled. She had made mistakes. She had run away before, and because of that, her disappearance wasn't treated with the same urgency that others might receive. In the eyes of the system, she was a habitual runaway. And with that label often comes silence, delayed Amber Alerts, limited news coverage, and a collective shrug. But Miranda wasn't just a troubled teen. She was a child, and she mattered. People close to her say she had been trying to turn things around, that her family was trying to help her reset, to get her back into a safer routine. She had been back at home recently, around those who loved her, but the pull of someone online took her away again. Through a dating app, still unconfirmed by authorities, Miranda connected with a 35-year-old man named Stephen Gress. We don't know what promises he made or what story he told. What we do know is that Miranda went to his home once, returned home, and then made the fatal decision to go back the next day. She never came back. Stephen Gress, 35, and his domestic partner, 37-year-old Michelle Brandis, were no strangers to law enforcement. Both had criminal records stretching back years, drug offenses, domestic disturbances, petty theft. They were known in the St. Petersburg area as disruptive neighbors, loud, unpredictable, sometimes confrontational. Locals now say the red flags were always there, but like many low-level troublemakers, they slipped through the cracks. No one suspected what they were truly capable of. Miranda's arrival at their home marked the beginning of a horrifying descent into cruelty. According to arrest records, a confrontation over a piece of jewelry sparked the violence. Gress and Brandis believed Miranda had stolen from them a necklace, a ring, maybe nothing at all. But instead of calling the police, they turned to violence. What followed wasn't just a beating, it was sustained torture. Miranda was held in that home for days, not hours. Days. She was restrained, physically abused, and psychologically broken down. It's unclear exactly when she died, only that she was alive and suffering for far too long. Ultimately, her killers suffocated her, wrapping her head tightly in layers of plastic wrap. A slow, terrifying death, premeditated, controlled. But the horror didn't end there. Her body, instead of being reported or even hidden, was dismembered, cut apart, pieces of a 16-year-old girl placed in garbage bags and dumped like trash. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was the cold, deliberate destruction of a human life. And it all happened in a house surrounded by neighbors, just a few doors away from families, children, people who had no idea what was unfolding behind those walls. The investigation into Miranda Corsette's disappearance has sparked widespread outrage, not only for the unspeakable brutality of the crime, but for how long it took to sound the alarm. Miranda had been reported missing, but because of her history as a habitual runaway, her case didn't trigger the urgency it deserved. There were no immediate media alerts, no citywide search. In the eyes of the system, she was just another troubled teen who would come home when she felt like it. But Miranda didn't come home. In the days that followed, online forums and local comment threads began to fill with a chilling consensus. People weren't shocked. They weren't surprised by the names of the suspects. Something always felt off about them, some said. Others recalled previous disturbances, police visits, strange behavior. The red flags were visible, but no one had pulled the alarm until it was too late. Eventually, police began piecing things together. Surveillance footage showing Miranda's movements, digital trails from her phone, tips from concerned community members, and increasingly desperate statements from her family. It was this combination of community concern and forensic detail that brought detectives to the doorstep of Stephen Gress and Michelle Brandis. When questioned, their narrative began to unravel almost immediately. Inconsistent answers, nervous behavior, and physical evidence at the scene revealed the awful truth. The arrest affidavit described in graphic detail how Miranda had been tortured and killed, and it left little doubt about the level of cruelty involved. What investigators uncovered was not a tragic accident, but a calculated, extended act of violence, hidden in plain sight. What led Miranda Corsette to the home of a 35-year-old man? A conversation on a dating app. That's it. A few messages, a connection made through a screen. And from there, her life was put in the hands of someone who would eventually end it. This wasn't a dark alley kidnapping. This was digital grooming, one of the most insidious crimes of the modern age. Stephen Gress used a platform that should have never been accessible to a 16-year-old. But dating apps are notoriously easy to bypass. Age verification is weak, and predators know exactly how to exploit the gaps. They know what to say, how to listen, how to lure. And once trust is built, it becomes nearly impossible for a vulnerable teen to recognize the danger until it's too late. It's not the first time this has happened, and tragically, it won't be the last. Vulnerable youth, especially those looking for connection, validation, or escape, are prime targets. They think they're in control. They believe they're making choices. But in reality, they're walking into traps carefully set by adults with far darker motives. When tragedies like this occur, we're quick to point fingers at the app, the parents, the system, even the child. But rarely do we focus on the core problem, the ease with which predators gain access to children online. The real question is no longer how this happened, but why we're still letting it happen. There's a hard truth we have to face. Not all missing children are treated the same. Miranda was classified as a habitual runaway, a label that can kill urgency and empathy. When a child has disappeared before, there's an assumption they'll come back, that they're rebelling, that they're trouble. But that assumption costs lives. Miranda didn't come back, and now her family is left grieving not only the loss, but the sense that her life didn't trigger the alarm bells it should have. Would things have moved faster if she came from a different background? If she were a straight-A student? If she had never run away before? This case doesn't just expose a brutal crime, it exposes a hierarchy in how we respond to victims. As of now, Stephen Gress and Michelle Brandis have both been charged with Miranda's murder. They sit behind bars, awaiting trial. Their defense teams will likely argue about state of mind, about blame, about background. They'll invoke legal technicalities and psychological assessments, because that's what the system allows. But the facts are brutally clear. They held a 16-year-old girl hostage. They tortured her, they suffocated her, and they dismembered her body and threw it in a dumpster like waste. What they did cannot be undone. And no courtroom proceeding, no verdict, no sentence will bring Miranda back. But justice must come, and it must come fully, because there's a child out there now growing up without a mother, a family left to carry the weight of a loss that should never have happened. Justice in this case can't just mean punishment, it has to mean prevention, change, a line drawn so clearly that it forces everyone, from tech companies to institutions, to do better the next time a child goes missing. Miranda Corsette was more than a statistic. She was a daughter, a mother, a granddaughter, a girl with a chance, until someone stole it from her. This story is about more than a murder. It's about digital exploitation, broken systems, the society that sometimes looks the other way until it's too late. How many more Mirandas will there be before we start protecting kids like her, before we start treating every missing child like they matter? This is Unlocked Confidential. Subscribe for more serious and investigative true crime stories that demand answers, even when justice comes too late.